Hey, this is Ramon Ray, founder of smarthustle.com. Thanks for joining me for what I know is going to be an exciting interview with yet another amazing entrepreneur and business owner. And we're going to talk about a lot of things. And again, if you're listening to this podcast, seeing this podcast, give us a thumbs up, a like, a comment. Let us know you're watching it. Let us know that you're seeing it. We like to read those comments and see those things. And for more information, you can always go to smarthustle.com. So, PJ, let's dive right into it. I'm talking to PJ Jonas. First of all, why don't you give us, I already said your full name, PJ, give us the name of your company and a little bit about what you do. And I'm proud to say I am a customer.
Yeah, so I have a company that I named Goat Milk Stuff. And the reason I named it that is because I wanted to do stuff with goat milk. And so we started out with soap. One of the reasons I started with soap was because it was one of the lowest barriers to entry, right? There's not food products, so you didn't have to worry about dealing with all of those laws, but mostly because I could involve my entire family with it. And so I have 8 children. Right now, they're 12 to 23, but when I started Goat Milk Stuff, they were only 1 to 10. And so they have been involved with it from the very beginning.
And can you please just break that down as best you can, summarizing this journey from 10 years ago or whatever that age may be to today? Give us a story or two. What's that like? And maybe just we start there. What are some tips for those who maybe have 3 kids, 5 kids are like, you know what, I love my children to work with me. And I'm assuming there's some differences between a 2-year-old and a 20-year-old, and differences between pulling a 20-year-old in who doesn't know anything about your business versus one who's been with you. But take some time and unpack a little bit of that journey for us.
So we decided to homeschool. Okay. And when we decided to homeschool, I knew I want the children's education to be very practical. I wanted them to graduate knowing how to run a life successfully, how to run a business successfully. If they wanted to go off to 4-year college and be a professional, that was totally fine with me. But if they wanted to do something off the beaten path, then I wanted them to have all of those skills that could do that. And so having a family business was a real tool to be able to teach them the skills that they would need, not just to run their own business someday, but to run our current business and to learn life skills, things such as, sales, talking to adults, talking to others, selling, conflict resolution, right? Because if you're working with your 7 siblings and your parents, there's going to be some conflict. Yeah. All of those kinds of life skills was something that was really important to me that they be able to have. And so as the business has grown, it's really been kind of a family effort deciding in what direction we're going to go. So for example, we started out, we were internet only, right? I wanted a business that I could do in my pajamas. If my kids were sick, we could do that. But what we found was in order to get people to the internet, you had to let people know about you. Mm-hmm. And if you're fortunate enough to have money and are able to advertise, you can do it with advertising. But if you don't, like we didn't back then, we had to come up with a more creative way. And so we started doing craft fairs and festivals. And that was how we got people to become aware of our product. We would give out samples, we would sell soap, but everybody we interacted with, we tried to push them back to the website. And so that was kind of how we went from craft shows to internet only. And then when the kids were in their teen years, they started saying to me, Mom, I want to stay in the business. This is what I want to do. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, they're not 7, 8 years old anymore where you're like, yeah, sure, honey, because that's all they know. But you're 15, 16, 17, you're thinking, okay, we have to make this something that can actually support everybody.
Right.
And so that
you can't just give your son lunch money and say, go buy a Camaro.
Exactly. Exactly. They've all actually purchased their own cars, those who have cars. They all have retirement savings. My 19-year-old son bought a house. My 17-year-old son is actually in the process of putting an offer in on a house. So all of those things, it was like, okay, this is real. You guys are really want to do this. And so that kind of has, as a family, pushed us in a little bit of a different direction, as well as starting to have people come to the farm and have a bit more of not just online, but a destination business as well.
Wow, I love that. And Dave Ramsey talks about his, sorry to sound so morbid, his death. Dave Ramsey talks about it today. I'm curious, PJ, you're very young. You're going to live forever. You're not forever. You're going to live for a long, healthy year, you and your husband, long, healthy amount of years, you and your husband. But the point I'm getting at, Are you thinking already of legacy when you want to just go to Hawaii, not want to do it, wake up one day and not see a goat? I'm teasing, or whatever it is. Are you already, I'm thinking that. I'm asking the question because a family business, that's a common challenges I'm hearing with family businesses. The mom and dad are founders. In your case, the founder, mom, has the business, and the kids, 8 or 2 of them say, not for us, we're going to New York or wherever. Are you guys already talking about that?
Absolutely. So we told the children that when my youngest turns 18, my husband and I are done with the business. And by that, what we mean is we're done hiring people, firing people, making all of these big decisions, because I'd love to just go out and bottle feed baby goats, right? I mean, that's something that's enjoyable, but it's all that kind of back end stuff that's kind of stressful. And so we'll be there to help. But we've started probably about 2 years ago. So my youngest turns 18 in 6 more years, just to kind of put that in perspective. So we have about 6 more years left. And about 2 years ago, we started transitioning my oldest son to taking over more of an HR role in some areas. He does payroll. He does some of the tax things, the workers' compensation, things like that. And really teaching the children not just, it's a common phrase, not just how to work in the business, but to work on the business and to run the business, because they're very good practitioners. They all know how to milk goats, they all know how to make soap, they all know how to ship orders, but that doesn't keep a business growing and flourishing and in business.
Of course.
So it's definitely a different mind shift over the past couple years. Stopping them from teaching them those skills to teaching them more of problem solving, more of what it takes to be a business. But definitely, we've actually already talked with a lawyer about it, about different issues, about passing it on, and how to physically and monetarily do that with tax benefits and all of that. So yeah,
that's a big issue. Yeah, you got to be careful with taxation.
Yeah, begin with the end in mind. Know where you're going.
Yes, I'm curious. Have you come to the point yet? And you can always learn, of course. You can learn from a 3-year-old. But speaking of mature and as business and the credit that you put into this business, has there been a tipping point yet where you're learning things from your kids, and not like a daily thing like, oh, that was cute, but like where you're like, no, we've always done it this way, the Jonas family for the past 15 years, and you're like, you know what? Okay, I got to let go. Has that come yet? Or are they still a bit young? How's that happening?
No, it has. So one of the things my husband and I kind of like get mad at each other for all the time is because we have raised 8 leaders. And when you have a family with 8 leaders in there, there is a lot of differences of opinions. And so when the children were little, everything we've ever done has always been a family business meeting, right? So we would all get together, I would present the issue, and then we would take a vote, and everybody would raise their hands. You'd watch the little kids just, raise their hands because that's what everybody else was doing. And then probably within the past 3 years, we don't get unanimous votes anymore, right? Everybody has their own opinion. They have their own plan. We definitely don't all agree moving forward. I kind of had the final say, because one of the things that I've noticed with the children is because they're all very fiscally responsible, they often have a hard time investing things that aren't necessarily a guaranteed return, right? Sometimes as an entrepreneur, you have to take a risk.
Sure.
And it's an educated risk. It's based on a lot of good facts, but it's still a risk. And so I've noticed that they're not necessarily good at doing that yet. So there's a lot of times we're like, no, we don't want to spend the money. We don't want to do that. And I'm like, sorry, we're doing it anyway. But a lot of times, they come up with a lot of ideas that I wouldn't do. And, and that's the other thing I do is I let them. Sometimes I know it's the wrong thing, right. But I let them do it when it doesn't have really big consequences, because that's how they learn. They learn from making mistakes. And so you have to allow that to happen.
Yeah, a non-fatal risk. And I think those are the best lessons learned. I'm with you 100%. Like, you know what, if you want to leave I'm making it up, the barn door open today, and then they got to clean up a lot tomorrow, whatever the issue is. I'm curious, a side business, you said you're kind of getting into a destination. That means I can pay you to come and clean, your stable or something? Is that what I'm hearing?
All right. So as you probably know, you cannot have volunteers at a for-profit business.
Yeah, I guess.
So people are like, oh, can I come and help with the goats? Can I help with this? Like, no, I'm sorry, you can't, because we're a for-profit business. So every spring, starts in February, we deliver somewhere between 200 and 300 baby goats. And it is round the clock dealing with all of this. And so what we did a couple of years ago was we started what we call our kidding experience. And people pay $100 to come to the farm, and they help us deliver baby goats. They help us clean stalls. They help us dry them. They help us bottle feed them. They do all of that. And yeah, that's pretty much agritourism at its best.
I love it. I love it. That is nice. Let's dive, PJ, and then feel free to jump in with anything that you're, that I haven't asked. There's so much I could ask, but I'm curious. Let's dive into some of the fundamentals of business. I'm curious what you've learned. Let's talk about marketing. It's one big area. Any highlights, tips, how you're marketing it? I find, PJ, that in general, marketing's relatively the same. You post on Facebook, do this, you do ads, and that's, a lot of it. But anything that you're seeing a bit different, or any tips like, Ramon, here's what we learned, or here's my suggestion for all. Talk about your business, and then let's try to extrapolate this, what everybody can learn who may not have a goat stuff business.
So one of the things that I have found that we've been very successful with is not marketing, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is we go out. So we've got right now, I think it's like 260,000 Facebook followers. And so my Facebook lives that I do are just about the family. We'll make dinner. We'll go out. We have a litter of puppies right now, and I share the puppies every day, and I'll go out in the garden, and I'll do what the kids are dressing up as, or doing with that. And what we do with that is the number one, we want to share. I'm an educator at heart, and I like to teach people, and I like to show them what I do. We have a very unique life, and I can really promote that in a lot of ways. But what it does is it, from a purely business perspective, is it builds brand loyalty. Because there's a lot of talk right now that, the younger generations are not very brand loyal. They're very price sensitive. They go for the best deals. They go for all of that. And so if you can have a bond, and it can't be fake, right? It's got to be authentic. But if you can create a bond with your customer market and your ideal customers, they are going to be your fanatics. They're going to tell everybody. They're going to get whatever they have, share it with the others. If you have something that is, can be giftable, things like that. And they're going to continue to support you come what may. So we will do things like, we will obviously share, if we have a new goat milk soap scent, right? I'll be like, hey, look, it smells so good. Oh, I can't wait. All of those things. But it's not the purpose of the video. It's just, happens in our day-to-day lives. So that has worked really well for us. And a lot of that is because, we know that our core demographic is very family oriented.
Yeah. And I'm curious about your demographic. Does it people who just love health? Is it people who love, what is the demographic? Meaning, I'm curious, is it a weird one that I wouldn't think of, or is it just, are you competing with Bed Bath and Beyond, as it were?
Yeah, so it is amazing the number of people with skin conditions.
Okay.
With eczema, psoriasis, acne, sensitive skin, sensitivities, chemical sensitivities. That is probably our core. And I didn't realize that when I started, because all my kids had, all my children had healthy skin. But when I first made the soap, and I put it in the shower, my husband's fingers stopped cracking and splitting. And that was kind of my, okay, there's something different about this. There's something special about this. Goat milk really does make a difference. And so, we very much target people, obviously, with skin conditions, but also people who are just tired of chemical junk. People who understand how bad the food supply is, who understand all the chemicals in all your body care and your health and cleaning and all of that. And those as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were going to say it was, people who love farming, or people who love big families, or, something, it's something like that. Got it. I'm sure there's a small subset there. I'm going to be a customer, not because I like the goat milk, but I like y'all. So
that works for me too.
Yes. Let's talk a little bit.
Schoolers, but
indeed, let's talk a little bit about hiring, firing, and things of that nature. Again, we can talk for ages about that. But give us some tidbits. And I guess the first one is that, can you talk about your team? Is it just your family, or do you have people who are not related at all to the Jonas family? And then talk about hiring and firing and how that works. What's your insights?
Yes. So we right now have probably about 10 to 12 people who are non-family members working with us on the farm. Hiring and firing has definitely been the number one most difficult aspect of running this business. I have very difficult time finding people who will work half as hard as my children. We have, it doesn't matter how high quality people you have, and I have some very high quality people now. Nobody will ever care about your business. Nobody will ever care about your customers as much as you do. It is just a fact. It's just a fact. And so you have to be able to let go and delegate and still have a way to teach them how to handle your customers in a way that's, going to meet a certain standard. It will never be your standard. Your standard will always be higher. You will always know more. You'll always be able to better, just because you have that experience that they don't have. But finding the people who have the work ethic is really difficult. We often find that we have to, we kind of trade the people who show up on time every day, day in, day out, versus, not necessarily as capable as you would like them to be. So I think it's by far, for entrepreneurs, the hardest part of running a business, because I've always said, my business could be twice what it was if I could find more people. I just keep waiting for my children to grow up and get married and bring some more people in.
I hear you on that. It's funny, even in my own business, there's few things to trade. Do I want somebody who's much more expensive and knows it, or save money and get somebody who's a little less? It's not always a math like that, but that's kind of the things I think about. I'm curious, how do you deal with the I'm a Jonas card, if you know what I mean? If you don't, I'll clarify it. But how do you deal with the 7-year-old? I'm making it up now just to be clear. The 7-year-old, I'm a Jonas. I think we should have it blue, versus the 40-year-old head of marketing. How do you deal with that?
So it's funny, because when the children were younger, it was probably the number one problem we had was adults being corrected for doing something wrong by children. Because they knew that, and the children would come in and be like, that's not the way we do it. Mom's not going to be happy if you do it that way. Right. And that was a problem for a lot of people. We had a lot of people not work out because of that, until I started to learn to look for people that could, that were a little more, able to take.
And in this case, the children were correct in that case.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, totally the case correct. Where maybe, the person whose non-family name has to correct, fire, unless it's not structured that way. As you get bigger, though, I was just curious how you handle that aspect.
Yeah, so pretty much the way it is everybody has their jobs.
Right.
And some of those jobs report to me, some of those report to a non-family member. Right. And that person has the ability to correct.
Yeah.
Now if it's a younger child, and it's more of a youth and an experience.
Oh, I understand that.
Kind of thing, that they'll often bring me in and say, hey, so-and-so's doing this and whatnot. We have sometimes with the younger children, they just want to chat. And,
I get that. Yeah. But I more meant, like as you grow, maybe speak to that. What happens if the Jonas person, the family person, is the junior person and the senior, and maybe there haven't been serious issues like that yet because of the age, but I'm curious, how do you deal with that, or how would you suggest?
So we had several meetings with our attorney, and he has experience with family businesses and passing them on, and he's had some real horror stories and whatnot. And so we took a lot of advice from him. And basically where we've decided to go is that the children will each have an ownership portion of the business. So they will get their relative percentage of the profit, and that's just theirs just because that's who they are and how they were born, and that they were part of this business growing. Yeah. But then everybody is treated as an employee if they choose to work in the business.
Got it.
And their salary, their hours, their compensation, their benefits, all of that is based on that position.
Got it.
So once, ownership aside, and ownership, like I said earlier, those family meetings where we decide what direction we want to go, what we want to do. But within those, they're just an employee. And they're very much treated like that. My lawyer said to me, you have to be able to fire your children, right? You have to.
I've done that. So it's nothing like I'm making this up. A child, meaning adult child, could be go in the cash register and take $50 because they need some candy. You know what? I got to go to school. Let me take 3 lip glosses. That's not allowed. It's like you're another employee.
Yeah, no, none of that. We have like, scrap soap. You can have the scrap soap, the employees know they can have the scrap soap. But yeah, no, all of that is generally, although I will tell you, when we were making we're not right now because of the pandemic, but goat milk fudge. There was a little bit of an issue with some fudge disappearing fairly regularly, but we kind of let that one slide.
If I was there, I'd probably be the chief offender for that. Curious about technology. I'm very impressed with your systems, and you're welcome to mention brand names if you want or not. But when I'm a customer, I bought from you, and saw that I got a personalized video from a famous brand that I use as well, and got the thank you, got the emails. And again, these things are not hard. It's integrated. It's just my experience with smaller businesses. It's not quite like that. We're not Amazonish, which I think is the gold standard for these kind of things. Why should I have to say my name when you just asked me to punch in my number? So can you just walk us through at a high level, maybe how you had systems when you first started and what you've grown to now? Is it one system you have? Is it an integration? I got so many questions. How are you doing that?
Yeah, so when we started, I taught myself how to code and put up a website.
Wow.
It was before there were any of these good, websites out there. They just weren't out there back then. And after a couple of years of that, I decided we were a real business and hired a programmer, and we went with a system called XCart.
Okay.
And probably about 4 years ago, I said, okay, this is not working anymore. We need something better. And I researched everything, and that was when we decided to go with Shopify.
Okay.
I've been very pleased with Shopify. There are some things that they do that I don't like, but I think they're the best system out there. And so everything that we do focuses on the customer's experience.
Yeah.
And I want to make it, number one, as simple and easy for my customers as possible. But more importantly, I want to make it as memorable for my customers as possible. My goal is not to be forgettable. It's not to just be a standard cookie cutter. I could be anyone else. I want a company to be memorable. I want it to be authentic. I want you to feel like you know us and you're a part of the family. And so everything we do works towards that goal. Everything from the social media to the emails to the thank you videos, all of that all works together. If it makes your experience as a customer better, then we're going to put in the effort and the time to do it, because that's, to me, the future for small businesses to survive in a field where Amazon is making 42% of the online sales.
Well, you definitely have me as a fan. I mean, listen, PG, let me ask you a very simple question. Do I have a beard?
You do not.
Guess
Did
what
you
I bought?
get the beard balm?
I bought it for a friend of mine. That's how much, and I was impressed, and I plan to buy more. So there's a lot of things, but everybody has their interest. I'm not like a lip gloss guy or whatever you sell, but anyways, kudos to you. You have a fan in me. For you, it's probably everyday Ramon. That's common, but I'm impressed because, again, for smaller businesses, you want to support smaller ones. It just doesn't, that intimacy, you don't see it online. So you guys have exceeded the bar.
Thank you. And it's really interesting that you brought up the beard balm, because that was a product that one of my employees asked if he could create and sell, because nobody in my family, well, my one son has a beard now, which I don't like it, but he's old enough, he's allowed to have it. Yeah. But he wanted to do that, and I said, sure, and I enabled him, and and we went through different formulas, and he tested them, and he worked on the packaging and all of that, and that's been something that he's been doing, on his own. So we definitely try to enable people to, if they have something that is meaningful to them and that they want to share, to make that happen.
Nice. This is really good. And as far as I wanted to ask for the marketing, do you have one person, like how many, I guess, let me ask it this way, PJ, what things of your business are you not doing that are outsourced to other people with a clear management or overseer line, if that makes sense, the question,
Yeah. So to be perfectly honest, I have been trying to find someone to help with marketing for a long time.
Yeah.
It's difficult, and I've not found an outside company that works. We've tried several and had several very different bad experiences. Sure. So we've hired a couple. I'm teaching my one son. He's learning how to do Facebook advertising. Nice. But it is still something I think we would definitely be benefited by an entity to kind of do more of it, and that was their goal. Maybe, and free us up to do a little bit more of what we're better suited at and enjoy more than some of those back end. But until now, everybody, it's very much broken up. So you appreciate this. So I told them I was tired of doing all the videos by myself, and I had tried 3 or 4 separate children to do videos, and each one would, and nobody got excited about it. And so probably about 2-3 weeks ago, I said, okay, I said, I am now paying per video. I said, they were like, how much? I said, from $1 to $5 per video, depending on how well you do, whatnot. And let's just say I have one son who has purchased a house, who if you go on my YouTube channel, you will see that he has all these videos up. Because I was like, I pay someone else to do them. I might as well, it's addition to your salary. And
It's
there
funny.
you go.
I have the same thing. I'm going through my family. We only have two adult children, but me and my daughter, she works for Smart Hustle, and I'm going through the same thing of how to pay. I think that's amazing. And then everything else. What are some of the roles in goat milk stuff? Somebody like head of marketing or technology, or you mentioned marketing already, but what are the other areas? Just educate us what it's like to be on a farm and how you've done it today, which may evolve. What are some of the
Right. So I have 8 children. My oldest daughter is working on some content creation. We just started doing some information products based on things that we've learned. Our goal is to be able to help other families start a business with their children. That's kind of where we're going. It's not there yet, but she's been working very heavily on that. My next son he's the one who's taking over a lot of, like I mentioned, the payroll, the infrastructure. He also does some of the soap making. He does some of the milk management.
kind of seems like a COO role could be at some point ish.
Very much. He's very he's the one who is not as emotional. So it's a good role for him, just those cut and dried things that just needs to be done. My next son is my creative. He's the one who does all the photography, the videography.
That's great.
All of that. And he is, we've gotten him different courses to learn about product photography and different backgrounds and things. And like, you look from 2 years ago, his product shots to now, and it's just amazing how far he's come. The next one is, before the pandemic started and the farm was open, he manned our sweet shop. So he was the one who dealt with all the customers and served all of them. So he's
and inventory as well, making sure it was stocked and the whole stack.
We had employees to help because we manufacture everything. So all the cooked cheese, all of that, and all the soaps, all of that. Right. But yeah, all of that, making sure it was presentable for the customers, making sure the bathrooms were stocked with toilet paper, all of the things that need to happen when you have people at your location. So he's probably going to be moving into the soap room and helping with that until we open up back on the farm. The next one is my goat guy. So he's the one, he is outside all the time. He's the barn manager.
It's a big job.
Yeah, we do all our own vet work, so all our own shots, all our own deliveries, everything. About the only thing we are not able to do is a C-section, which we've only had one of those in 15 years, so that's not been a very big issue. But he's learned all of that.
Nice.
Everybody helps with construction, fencing, building. Everybody does all of that. The next one is also in the barn. He helps with the goats. We have 2 different breeds of goats. He has one breed that he takes care of.
Wow.
The next one is my daughter she is on computers as well. She does customer service. She answers Facebook messages. She does website maintenance, things like that. And then my youngest is a girl, and she actually is thinking about becoming a dog breeder and a dog trainer. Nice. And so we, on the farm, to protect the goats, we have several dogs to keep the goats safe. Right. And so she just had her first litter of puppies and has been training them and doing all of that. And so we're kind of seeing whether that's something she wants to do, because the end goal is for each of the children to kind of have their own area, right? We don't want them knocking heads. We don't, we want them, like I said, we raised leaders, so we want them to all have something that they can, do the best they can and not have everybody stepping on their toes.
I think that is powerful. I think that is awesome. What didn't I ask you, PG, that you wanted to talk about or answer? I'm sure there's 1,000 things. And I have 100 more questions, but anything that you wanted to share that I didn't ask you quite yet?
One of the things that I think is important to me is that when you're involving your children in a business, it gives you a chance to strengthen relationships, right? People ask us, well, how do you get it all done? It's not because we don't have, we don't have family time and business time and school time. Right. Everything is all integrated. And so you can learn together and you can build these bonds just based on just the sheer magnitude of time that you spend together. And so, the children learn so many things from my husband and myself, and we learn from them, and they learn from each other. And, when we get around at night, when all the work is done, not that it's ever done, but when we stop doing the work, the stories that we tell and the memories that we share and all of that, it's just an amazing way to not just provide financially for the family, but to be able to actually be a family that really enjoys each other.
Wow. And by the way, I went to besthusbandintheworldmagazine.com, and your husband's picture was there for the billionth year. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. He's pretty awesome. I couldn't do it without him.
Yes, indeed. But PJ Jonas, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Really appreciate it. One more time, give us your full website address.
Yep. So it's www.goatmilkstuff.com is the website, and you can get to everything from there.
And I am a customer, and I'll be more of a customer. Goatmilkstuff.com does great stuff. But again, I'm Ramon Ray, founder of smarthustle.com. If you like this interview, there's so many more like it at smarthustle.com. Come back, give a comment, upvote, like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We are here to serve